thanks for being here with us. I feel honored that I'm actually doing this with you and I guess for you. I'm probably a little bit nervous that my daughter's on here because then as a father, I got to perform for her. So my daughter, no critique after, okay, Milia, no hard critique. Okay, but you know the relationship we have, we're very open with each other. So yeah, I also appreciate the honesty as well. Yeah, to get us kind of started, and just so that I know, Jaden's gonna pop up a poll, and I just kind of know, I want to know where you're from and like what is your work, what are you doing within our community? So if Jaden could pull that up there. Cool, thank you for doing the poll. Mostly Maui, which makes sense. Glad our, I can say sister islands are on board with us today too. What an opportunity to share. Aloha, Auntie Anna. Thank you for your support always. Okay. Thank you. And is there another poll as well?
Yes.
Okay.
I will put that one up right now.
Cool. Kind of a good mix. Oh, human services coming in with the lead. Okay. So it looks like we're almost there. Yeah, I wasn't sure if there was an invite to parents, especially because sometimes as we share in this field, regardless of the field that you work in, can be a little bit over the head of people. And yet, even in our last session, although most of us are service providers, that was one of the comments that Ku'ule in the last session had, or one of the questions she asked, like, is this stuff going over your head? So we all have our place, right? Our place of learning, our place of understanding. But looks like no parents. Okay. Thanks for doing the poll, you guys. I just wanted to ask one more question of you. And let me pull up my PowerPoint. And that is kind of why, using the chat box, why did you like pick this presentation? Because there is some amazing speakers and some amazing topics, but why here? If that's okay to ask you. I see a lot of alohas. Oh, I'm also a parent. Okay, cool. Hopefully you're typing because I don't see any responses. Oh. Culture lens caught my attention. Okay, cool. Cool. Thank you. Any more? Just to give me a perspective. Aloha, Chrissy. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Okay, so thanks for thanks for being willing to do that. So at least it helps me kind of gauge, so I know how to also perhaps interact with you. Let me start this slide here. So just the way my setup is, I may kind of look to the side because I'm actually looking on a larger screen. My eyes are getting older. I made 60 this year. 61 is right around the corner. So I use that as an excuse. However, I started wearing glasses from when I was 5, but I get away with it. I get away with it when I say stuff like that. So I may be looking this way to the side, and that's because I can look at my laptop and kind of see you guys. So yeah, you know, we say family protective factors, the 5 factors. I kind of like to change it already just from the get-go of using the word ohana instead of just keeping everything all English. Yeah, it just helps me in a perspective, to be in that perspective. But really, what we can look at is that protective factors are really the building blocks, the foundation to a lot of the work that we do. Mahalo, Jaden, you know, in the Hawaiian culture also is to also mahalo those who not only come before us, but also who are in our presence, who also give. And so mahalo, Jaden, I just wanted to mahalo you and thank you for your help and us connecting and partnering through this venture. Yeah. Okay, so you know, they say, right, it takes a village to raise a child. Here's a beautiful Kenai Peninsula, which I envision as a village when I think of the concept of village. But in essence, as we've already heard from Dr. Kimo, from the previous session that I was on with Ku'ule, who opened up with the protocol of opening up a conference in a Hawaiian mana'o, we're really all part of the village. And I think it's important for us to know that whatever we can do, whatever we contribute, whatever we can give, that we're part of this system, right? That can make a difference, that can make a change. People ask me, like, today, now at this age, at this stage in my life, like, who are you? And they call it the elevator speech, right? But really, for me, what's important for me, and in the work that I do with Kane Connections as a part of Maui Family Support Service, and then also for 7 years now, I've been teaching up at the Addiction Center, up at the Loas Residential Treatment Center, just helping people to know and accept who they are, because I've had to do that for myself personally, why we are, which has been a lifelong quest for me, and then where we come from, I think is super important. And that there's value in everything there is value in everything we've experienced, whether it was challenges in our lives or that it was, you know, the good times in our lives, and that those experiences and those life lessons can help us, help ourselves, and also help others. Everyone is important in the Ohana Nui system. That's also very important to me. And so much so that I'll share about a family reunion that we recently put together, I recently put together 2 weeks ago. But just so that you can get to know me, and sometimes it's pretty scary to be to be vulnerable, yeah? But I found that in all the work, all these years, over 20 years in the nonprofit field as well, by being vulnerable in safe places, of course, but just having the courage to step up has helped so many people also do the same. So just to share with you so that we can connect, just a little bit about me, as it said in that little briefing of this session, just so that you can get to know me. I'm actually from Hawaii Island. I'm born and raised in Hilo, a typical local kid. Multiracial. There is some Ancestry.com said that I was Polynesian, then more, that was years ago, then eventually it said that I don't have Polynesian. But the fact that whether we are Polynesian or not, the koko that flows in our blood, or the genealogy or the DNA that came, you know, that we are part of, if you're from Hawaii, especially if you're from Hawaii and you're local and you were raised here, I think it's important to yeah, it's important to feel that sense of place. So this is me kind of growing up, grew up religious, part of a family of 5 kids. We were backyard kids. Animals was important. That was a really important thing for me. Thought I was going to be a veterinarian. That was my goal. Didn't even know what that entailed. You know, surrounded by a lot of cousins, lots of family. My dad, we lived next to my grandparents, and my dad had 9 brothers and sisters. We were the house right next door to them. And each of those 9 siblings had at least 3 to 7 kids. So we grew up with a lot of cousins, the positive and the negative of that. Also, I was involved at an early age with some art stuff and was fortunate to experience, you know, some outside views as well within the art system. And so, you know, here I am as a teenager thinking I'm all cool, right, with this with this look that I had. As an adult at age 22, I moved to Maui to be with my girlfriend, eventually got married to her, my wife, Ka'o. We then started a family shortly after, a few years later, after we did our thing. And, you know, life was great. And so from that point back in the early 80s until now, I mean, family is everything to me. That's a value that was instilled into me. And this is some pictures along the way, and this is a more recent one that, yeah, I am so blessed to have a big ohana and be a part of a ohana nui, which I'll explain in just a little bit. Yeah, so more recent picture, and just sharing with you so that you get to know me and a little bit of my heart. Now, some of you folks have said in the chat that, you know, you wanted to learn a little bit more about ACEs. I only recently heard about ACEs since I've been a part of Maui Family Support Service, like 5 years ago. And it really piqued my curiosity when I learned this, and I committed that, well, number one, I was nervous because not knowing what the outcome was going to be of the results of my test was pretty scary, especially hearing that, you know, ACEs will impact you in the long run. And if you're unfamiliar with ACEs, basically in the 90s, through the CDC along with Kaiser, they created this test. And I'm going to show you a quick little video here that kind of explains ACEs in a nutshell.
Kawika,
Can you hear? Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
We're actually seeing your presenter view. So I'm wondering if we should have you reshare so we just see the PowerPoint.
Okay, hold on for a second.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. If you want to stop sharing, and then we can retry.
Okay, got it.
Let's see.
So you didn't see some of the clicks. So reshare, I'm going to share now. Is that okay?
Yes, and I'll let you know what it looks like. We're still seeing the whole screen.
How about here? No.
Same thing. So maybe, sorry everybody, we're test navigating here. If you stop share and then you try to reshare again, and one of the options, maybe it'll just say PowerPoint. Maybe we can try that.
Share.
Does it give you a PowerPoint option?
It doesn't. Share sound, optimize the video clip. No. Who's the technical people? PowerPoint is a version. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is it. Let's see here.
Let's give it a try.
Oh no.
If not, we can, we can make do. We can still see the screen. It's just a little bit smaller. So that's okay if we have to do it that way.
Okay. And also, there's just a whole bunch of stuff that I put all into each other. So I just got to be more verbal. Okay, Okay, thanks for your patience. And sometimes just like parenting or even in this work, you just gotta adjust, yeah. Okay. It's my lesson for being up since 1:30 this morning trying to prepare for this group. Okay. Now it won't even let me share my PowerPoint. You folks see that? No? Let me try again.
Yes, we saw it. Let's see. Okay.
How about now?
Yeah, there we go. That'll work. Thank you.
Is it still though in presenter's view? No?
Yeah,
Yeah, but that's okay.
Try hit display settings at the top left. And that drop down at the top left, it's
Top left.
display setting. Sorry.
Yeah.
And swap presenter view.
Here.
Thank you.
Does that work?
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay, can you hear?
You're good.
Okay, good.
A child's experiences early in life are important building blocks for the developing brain. Genes, nature, are like the blueprint. They provide the basic framework for brain development. However, genes do not design the brain completely. Environmental influences, nurture, fine-tune how the brain works by shaping which brain connections get used. Connections that are used more grow stronger and more permanent, whereas ones that do not get much use fade away. Together, genes and the environment build the foundation for all future development. Safe, stable, and nurturing relationships early in life lead to healthy development. But children's brains capture other experiences as well. Stressful events. However, not all stress is bad. Positive stress involves normal childhood experiences, like starting daycare or meeting a new person for the first time. This stress is essential for healthy development because it helps children develop coping skills and confidence. But when stress is frequent, chronic, and uncontrolled, it is toxic to children, especially when they do not have a caregiver to provide support or buffer the stress. Adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, such as abuse, neglect, exposure to intimate partner violence, parental depression or addiction, and poverty, are toxic stressors which could lead to lifelong changes in learning and behavior. ACEs early in development can impact social, emotional, and cognitive functioning, increased risk-taking behavior such as drinking and substance use, and increased risk of disease, disability, and social problems later in life. The question is, how do adverse childhood experiences impact a lifelong development? One of the most important systems in our body is our stress system. It's activated when we experience stress. We become alert, our heart rate increases, and so do our stress hormone levels, cortisol and adrenaline. Our body is ready to react, what is known as fight or flight. A short period of time after the stress is over, or if a child receives support from a caregiver, the stress response turns off and the body returns to a normal state. Adverse childhood experiences create stress responses that stay active, and without the support of a caregiver, the system has difficulty shutting off completely. This constant and prolonged activation can affect immune system functioning and increase the chances of sickness, infection, and disease. Prolonged activation of stress hormones is also toxic to the brain. Certain areas of the brain are more vulnerable to toxic stress, including the executive center or the brain's control center, an area important for solving complex problems, attention, reasoning, impulsivity, inhibition, and learning. A second area is the emotional center, the brain's alarm system, which is involved in processing and interpreting emotions and the ability to control impulses. The third area is the memory and learning center, the brain's filing cabinet, which plays a major role in learning and the formation and retrieval of memories. Science shows that adverse childhood experiences impact all of these brain centers. Behaviorally, what we begin to see is emotional distress, poor emotion regulation, greater impulsivity, learning difficulties, and physical and mental health problems. More recently, science has begun to look at how ACEs cause changes in gene expression through a process called epigenetics, which helps us understand how nature and nurture interact. Epigenetics causes changes in the way genes work without changing the DNA code itself. This occurs through chemical changes influencing how the code is used. In other words, genes are like the hardware in a computer.
So I wanted to stop there, and there's a less than 2 minutes more to go on this video, and I'd be happy to share this link with you, which is one of the tools that I actually use. Can you guys hear me okay? Because I cannot see you guys with me doing this screen the way we just switched to. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, you're
Okay,
good.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, so tools like this are so available to us. And let me just play one more. No, actually, I'm not going to play. So, you know, there's a lot of us have been perhaps even trained in ACEs, or adverse childhood experiences. And for me, when I looked at this test, which I modified a little bit, which I'm more than happy to share as well, because I do this on occasions with the families the men that I work with in our Hui County men's group, also our Kamalama parenting class. I may do it there as well, especially if we get onto this topic, so that I can really help families know where they're at and where they can go. And then I also do this up at the Aloha House Residential Treatment Center that I teach at Wednesday mornings, life class, and then Thursday night, Hawaiian culture class. So, you know, in a nutshell, the 10 questions created through this test is to identify our experiences through childhood of abuse and neglect, verbal, physical, sexual, emotional, and so forth. And so in a nutshell, in the 90s, the CDC working with Kaiser, they created this test and did this because of the increase in health issues that they were seeing people from heart failure or heart conditions and all these other very serious health ailments. So, and making a connection, the results of surveying 17,000 people was that they could make a connection between how many of these, your score going from 0, no adverse childhood experiences, you know, all the way up to, and the magic number I believe was 4, where it is almost inevitable. What they found was that your percentage of having these health issues with a score of 4 or more, you are going to end up with these health conditions because of what adverse childhood experiences do, which sets off that fight or flight response to trigger our bodies to be in a survival mode that affects our brain and our body through those experiences, especially when they're repeated or constant as a child. So, you know, when I first learned this about 5 years ago, I was a little bit even fearful to do my test because I felt like, oh boy, I mean, and I didn't want to resurface some of the memories that I had buried personally, you know, my personal experiences that I had buried. And so, you know, when I started to get real with myself and then also understanding this work, you know, this picture of this little boy, and many times this was me, very confused. And what many people didn't know, even my own family, really, until I began to be open with them about this, was that this little boy that grew up to be, you know, an overall kind of optimistic, happy man, my ACEs score turned out to be 8. So that was an awakening call for me. But also, I don't have those serious health elements. And yeah, there's eating habits, those things matter, exercise, which I used to do regularly. Those are factors as well. But how could someone like me go from, you know, that much trauma as a child and not have these health after learning about ACEs. Well, the flip side to this is also the resilience, the concept of resilience, that if we have people who love us, regardless of what we've been through, it could be, very helpful to us. And so what does that actually look like? Well, to dig even deeper, this would be like a typical, this would be like the life that I experienced, maybe not always by my parents, but just being a part of this tight-knit community of family, and the way that our lifestyle was, back home. It opened up Pandora's box for me, actually, to realize that I would also have to face this to move even further on in my life. And the idea that every child deserves a champion, that's the idea of resilience, to build resilience. I probably had some resilience just within me already. Maybe it was from past lives. I don't know, just coming back again, perhaps, and being open to that. The idea of the transfer of epigenetics, the positive things perhaps that have happened in my life as well. But I really believe that it's way easier to build up a child than it is to repair an adult, especially for what I see when I work at the addiction center. I was glad to hear that there was a counter to the adverse childhood experiences test or assessment, and that was the resilience. So although my ACEs score was high, it was also coupled with, the positive of, it was 14 out of 14. That's also a factor that gave me some kind of relief that my life wasn't all that bad. However, when I look at my family, my extended family back home, from my siblings to my cousins, even deeper to find out even what my parents had gone through, we were living generations of just constant trauma, from the people that was before us, and even my age, my first cousins, and everything from incest to molestation to physical abuse, you name it. This was really my life. So I am grateful, though, that, like how they say, even just one person, and in my case, there were more than just one person. My dad was a great role model, as a male and a same-sex parent. He really was the strength to our family. My mom came from abuse. When I started to understand the abuse that she went through, it gave me a perspective, and it gave me healing of, to even forgive some of the things that we went through, including towards my dad or other relatives as well, because everybody was just people was hurting other people. Yeah. So, I think about the chaos, and even more recently, what we've all been through, not just COVID, but also being up at the treatment center and seeing the consistency of what people who come in and out of that treatment repeatedly go through. Like, it's really feeling like, as I felt many times, that my life was out of control, and trying to thrive and trying to strive and trying to do the best that I could. So I think what really worked for me when I look back, and as I share my story, not only with you today, but with other people, was that I always wanted to learn. Not necessarily academically, because I wasn't that book smart. I didn't finish college. I was the only one who was told going to college, but I dropped out after a couple of years when I moved from Big Island to Maui, and started a family shortly after. So I didn't take that path, but I always wanted to learn. And I knew that at least to be different, I needed to change and grow. So that little boy that used to sit by and oftentimes very confused, what worked for me was I wanted to help somebody else. I had this strong desire, and this picture off to the left side, if it's your left, most helpful, that's actually a high school, when they do those kinds of those I don't know what you call it, awards, I guess, best dress, best athlete and stuff. Ironic enough, I was actually named the most helpful guy. So I was already on this path of trying to help others, but a part of it was not realizing too that I wanted to heal myself. And so I ask you that, if there are stuff to heal or face, as hard as it is, seek support. Because for me, I think today, living through this and being able to help others, as all of us are here doing, is so important. But we got to understand what we've been through and be okay with that too. That life has its ups and downs, you know, its challenges, but there's also beauty in the success as well with that optimism. It was pretty scary. I tell you, talk about wanting to stay many times in my comfort zone, right? That feeling of safe, especially when I started to remember or recollect the trauma that I had been through. It was pretty scary to start to move out of that fear zone, you know. And I think especially for me was what impacted me was the lack of confidence. You know, even and it affected me in many ways so much that even like earlier when I listened to Dr. Kimo, and I know him, he grew up, his sister was married to my cousin. And he was a little, you know, the young guy running around when we were the little bit older kids. I think he was in intermediate school when we were in high school, going to basketball games and stuff like that. And to see where he's at today is pretty amazing. But to hear him speak even today, and then to hear Kule talk about culture and her share earlier in the session I was on, you know, there's that little side of me that also still has that lack of confidence. But I think what is effective, and I try to role model for many people, hopefully my own family, but also the people that I work with, including extended relatives, is the idea that we can learn no matter how old we are or where we come from or what we've been through. And I feel like I really am in, at this stage, like the growth zone. Yeah. So that's a little bit about me, just to be personal with you. As we move forward. So, you know, coming from where I grew up, my grandparents were Portuguese, Puerto Rican. That's my dad's. That's my dad. He's half Spanish, Puerto Rican, half Portuguese. I didn't know the Hawaiian culture, but I was always attracted to that. And so I do feel blessed that my in-laws, the Eleneki Ohana here on Maui and Hawaii Island, I started to learn about the Hawaiian culture and some of the practices through them. It's really, you know, but I would get bits and pieces of even just like family history. So most recently in my work, especially to help the families or help the individuals up at the treatment center. And I see a lot of Hawaiians come to the treatment, and sometimes repeatedly, like understanding the history, the actual history in a way that's easy to understand, such as this chronological Hawaiian history article that I put together for them. This is something that I'd be more than happy to share too. So I did some research and I tried to put this in the most easiest form to understand like what actually happened to give me a better perspective. In part of that learning and understanding also, I started to learn about the Ahapua system and wanted to put that not only in my own immediate household, but just looking at the community. Prior to this work, I was 10 years at the Boys and Girls Club. So it also gave me an experience of, you know, the idea of community and taking care of each other's kids and taking care of each other. And so the more I learned about the Ahapua system, and everyone has its place, whether you're working in the medical field, whether you are working in the human services field, or whatever you do, everyone is important so that we can help families, help children, help future generations move forward. Yeah. So understanding everyone has their role. The idea of Laulima too was also a little bit foreign to me with the way that I was raised. You know, Laulima, many hands working together. But I started to understand, and even when raising my own children, started to implement the concept. We used to do smoked meat before. At one point, you know, we did that and we were known for that here on Maui and Hawaii Island, making some good smoked meat. I don't make anymore. I'm too old to lift up coolers and all of that as extra work through my week. But, you know, this olelo no iau, aoi hana nui ke aluia. No task is too big when we work together, yeah, when it's done together. So that concept, that idea of working together is something that that I definitely have learned through my adult life, being a part of my wife's ohana, and also in the work that I've done. Yeah, and this is a recent picture in Hana after an hokila or a puli roundup here, and just to see the community come together is just so beautiful. But these values still exist today, and we can grasp this concept and actually work together. So even between each other, when I came on board in Maui Family Support Service, what I sensed was this protection, like for our own agency, not only MFSS in some ways, but also other agencies. And I had a hard time with that because I feel like if we all work together, put the family first, and if we all immerse ourselves and put that family in, put that family as a priority and share in what we know in resources and services to that family, the faster that family can heal. So 2 things that we do as a part of Kane Connections through MFSS is, I guess we're known now today with probation, parole, and all these other these departments seeking our help, is our men's group, which we call Huikane, that we offer twice a week and currently still being held virtually. And then the Kamalama Parenting through Hawaiian Values, a curriculum written by Venus Rossetti Medeiros, who I absolutely love and respect as a sister. She wrote this curriculum because she knew that families, especially with these generational traumas or this, generational curses, as many people use that expression, that we got to get it local. We got to start teaching the values. And although individual like therapy, and which I honor, and I've gone through individual therapy myself for personal healing, I think it's really important to understand that in the protective factors, whether it's a group like ours or some kind of services, because of the way that our Hawaiian people operated, it wasn't about, it was a kako. It wasn't about me. Yeah, there's self-care, and I think sometimes that's a little bit conflicting, right? You got the Western industrialized philosophy, and then you got the indigenous or native concept, and this is really always about we as the greater kako, yeah. So, we do accomplish all of these. We teach parents to be resilient, and we're there for them to support them through this process. Helping them make social connections, because some of them are feeling so isolated, especially if they've gone through an experience like incarceration or even addiction. Concrete support in times of need. We used to have our men's group that was 3 months, doing 3-month curriculum, which is very Western thinking. Come for 3 months, you get a certificate that you did the lessons, and then they take the certificate to the court. And then what is that? Now they pass one part of the criteria, perhaps, of their sentence or whatever, what have you. But in the men's group, although that's still the way it is for Kamalama, and we always invite them back in for another experience, because repetition is the mother of learning. Knowledge of, concrete support in times of need. 3 years ago, after 12 years, for initially part-time under agency, yeah, with some minimal support to fathers. And then when I took over the program 5 years ago, about 4 years ago, actually about a year later, we changed the concept, not only the name, but also that, these men or these fathers can keep, we did away with the certificate thing, because life has its challenges, and old habits, old thinking, sometimes trauma are not faced yet, or some of those things continue to exist. And so, yeah, that's one of the changes we made that seems to be pretty positive, where I've got guys with me 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And in fact, most recently, I hired 2 guys, one in particular, Sam Holy, who I met 5-6 years ago up at Aloha when I first started with MFSS. And today he works for me. So, knowledge of parenting and child development, that's also part of our program, and just having an understanding or teaching these families social and emotional competency is super important too. And we do that through not only these 2 written curriculums, but also by enhancing it by videos that, like the ones that I showed you, other Hawaiian articles. This is and other Hawaiian articles. This, I feel like I'm speeding up because I'm checking out the time and I only got like 10 minutes, I think. Is that correct, Jaden?
We have till 11:45, and then everyone, it goes on lunch
Okay, cool,
right
cool.
after that.
Okay.
Yeah. And sorry,
Sorry,
Kawika, one more tech request before you
Yes.
continue. Can you know your Zoom taskbar, if you can just move it up just a little bit,
Oh, okay.
'cause it's covering, some of the titles of your slides.
Good one. Okay, got it.
There you go. Perfect. Thank you.
Got it. Yeah, so, we use this curriculum National Fatherhood Initiative with topics and talking with men about things during our men's groups that is usually not talked about. Now, as far as the men is concerned, and I looked and it looks like there's more women on here, but as far as the men is concerned, one of the things that I've learned, and I was that person in a way too, is that men usually don't seek help until it's like really late. That's something that I honor with women are more open to accepting help, which is a really great thing. But we talk about things that most men don't talk about. And if it means that we need to shift and help and support a father or a Kane that is going through something that the group in essence can help, that's what we do as well. People ask me, do men really come? Well, pre-COVID, right now, COVID, we have an average of maybe 12 to 17 guys come on. Pre-COVID, we used to meet at Halimakana and we would have average 25 to 35 guys, not mandated to CWS or to the court system, coming because they wanted to learn. They felt valued, they weren't judged, so we look forward to that eventually or soon, providing this services not only virtually, but also in person. Kamalamba Parenting is amazing. It's another amazing program. I honor Child and Family Services along with Living Way Church, who has done this prior to us and continue to do it. It's the curriculum written by Venus Rossetti Medeiros in conjunction. She put this together with some of the kumus to the university and the Hawaiian immersion system. And, it's highlighting 16 values, Hawaiian values, and having people, whether you come Aino or whether you're from here and you were raised culturally, to understand what these values are and try to raise our children from that perspective, the perspective of we versus I, and so forth. Yeah. So protective factors for me, what really works is to use tools like what I shared with you guys. There's a lot of videos online, and especially about adverse childhood experiences. So when I learned about this, I actually dove into this and started watching the consistency between, what one would present, whether it was live presentation or the videos like this. Yeah. Let me stop here. Any questions, anybody? At this point, because this is really talking about the service, and then I'm going to dive a little bit more into the culture. Any questions? Unmute yourself, or are you in the chat? Oh, I might have just messed up because I can see you guys, but
I don't see any questions popping up, but there are a few people requesting some of those resources you shared earlier. Maybe we can talk more about that at the end.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. I'm more than happy to share what I have. Okay. Is this clicking? Did it just click? Did it just change screen to brain science impacts of stress?
Yes.
Okay. So I never thought I could learn this stuff. And I really didn't learn this in essence through higher education, through college. I actually learned this by researching, by watching Dr. Phil, my favorite TV show that I record and I watch when I'm stressed out. The kids think I'm kind of crazy. My family thinks I'm kind of crazy. I find that relaxing to learn about people and the way our body works and the way our behavior, what impacts our behavior. And so, yeah, just the understanding that amygdala, that part of our brain, that fight or flight response impacts us as adrenaline and cortisol starts to flow through our body, that whole concept of not only the trauma, but also when we're in constant stress and how it impacts our body, which is ultimately, that's how the ACEs came into play, is super important. So this is something that I share not only in my work with Kane Connections, but also up at Aloha House, because oftentimes people are hearing, the families are hearing this constant, like, don't do this, don't do, but they don't understand why. Like, how is this impacting not only the environment or people or the community, but also how is it impacting me physically? And what are the signs? What are the things that happen to me in my body that make me do these things, these brain patterns that we create, or these things that happen to our body? Let's see. And it's really simple, and I try to explain it in the most simple form. The other thing I try to do also, which connects to our local people, our Hawaiian people, is using the metaphors within a cultural sense, like the kalo and our connection to the kalo, yeah, from the story of Haloa to using it just in a Western concept also, that, you know, the kalo, you need, it's like the piko that passes on, right? Our umbilical cord, the three pikos, our po to spiritual ancestral, the piko, our umbilical cord, and then also the genitals is the third piko. We are connected, and the kalo cannot, it's not seed based. It has to, you have to have history and you have to have future. It's all together. And so utilizing the kalo plant, I come up with the concept that, you know, breaking this plant down, this kalo down, breaking down the family system, that we all need each other, yeah? And that if you don't have the support, then are you strong enough to create that for future generations? And then also from a concept of, you know, our core beliefs, looking at our core beliefs lead to our thinking and feelings, which ultimately makes us act consistently in certain ways. And out of that, there's always outcome. So, you know, thinking about that as well. I'm going to rush through this because I really want to talk to you about what I found in traditional Hawaiian parenting. What has helped me is to understand that not only I need to, in order to make changes, what may be under the surface of the, you know, the dirt or the water, using this analogy or this metaphor, this subconscious that makes me do things, especially under stress. Understanding that I need to make things conscious, or be that conscious level, ike ho maopopo, yeah, is really important. So I ask you really quickly, did Hawaiians of the past use lickings or pa'i to teach their children? Did Hawaiians of the past lick their kids? The normal response that I get from families as we're teaching our class, including up at the Aloha House treatment center of men and women that are up there, is yes. Hawaiians always hit their kid. I'd be happy to share this article, and I got this tool from a Hawaiian researcher. It was actually through Facebook that I discovered this, Adam Kiavi Manolo Camp. And let me read this to you very quickly. So this has opened up my eyes, and this is why I believe that this is one of the greatest tools that we use, that I believe Hawaiians can make this shift once they hear this stuff. So traditional Hawaiian parenting was far different from what it was practiced today. Excuse me. Too often the term "I'm going to lick you" is used in the Hawaiian households. I know stories of previous generations where a Hawaiian child would be caned or whipped, and then salt or vinegar would be thrown on the wound, and they called it the Hawaiian way. Torturing children in the name of discipline was not the Hawaiian way. Traditional Hawaiian nakeki, or children, spend more time with their nakupuna or their grandparents than their actual parents. This allowed knowledge to be passed down directly within their lineage. Hawaiian children under the age of 8 were taught manners, etiquette, polite behaviors, values, and mo'olelo, or stories of their ancestors. Polite behaviors and manners were taught as a first step towards learning a trade or living in a community, unlike the Polynesian Japanese way of education. This is also a key point, living within a community and how to behave within a community as a part of child development. They were allowed to play and was encouraged to learn by role modeling their elders. Inclusion and acceptance within an ohana, or family, and a community was an important value and belief system. Discipline normally came in terms of explaining or correcting behaviors through words. Hawaiians had a process of ho'omu, or exclusion, when it came to children who consistently misbehaved. But that was after discussion with the kahu, or priest, and or change in diet, exercise, massaging. Hawaiians believed that kids could change their energy when discussed with the experts. So hitting, spanking, slapping, caning were considered kapu, or prohibited, because a child, especially under the age of 8, was considered to still be spiritually connected and linked to their deceased ancestors, who of the past they were named after, right? The person cannot slap his or her ancestor. Therefore, no one can slap the child. As the child grew older than 8, and other methods of discipline or teaching the child, like most likely like assigning him or her to projects such as building walls or path. In the worst case scenario, exclusion or village silence were used. What's been a pivotal thing for us with our parent class, to get parents at least to start the shift or make a permanent shift, is when I share this article with them. This, in conjunction with the idea and the actual exercise of going through the mo'olelo of the bowl of light, which is the premise, enlightenment, kamalama, the curriculum that we use for our Hawaiian culture, Hawaiian parent-teacher Hawaiian values, has been the what is that word? That's been the change on how much we are able to help parents by using this curriculum that was locally written, that local people here, our Hawaiian families, can actually relate to. So, you know, you talk about protective factors, that social connections, and we had some of these discussions earlier, even including our opening. We have the information here. Social connections was really what Hawaiians were all about. So when we try to do stuff individually from a Western standpoint, it doesn't work. So that's why our group works in many ways. Knowledge of parenting, child development, not only in what we know today through brain science and child development, but also from a Hawaiian concept, because Hawaiians back then knew about child development, and they knew the importance of it and the social and emotional competency of children. There is a difference between punishment and discipline. I got a couple minutes out, so let me just kind of scroll to this. We have a history. We need to honor that. If you are not from here or not familiar, or learn. I did, you know, and to the point where I understand now what was said earlier, and then even on the previous session. It takes time, it takes knowledge, but also share what we know, because oftentimes people will hold back, like I did for many years, and not give that gift of knowledge and ike to the next person, whatever that amount that we know, right? So everything has a history. That even names has a proper. It's really important for us that once we know the difference, that we honor that, and then we try to teach that as well. To put culture, you cannot go language without culture. You cannot go culture without language. It's such an important piece of putting it together. And so anyway, I was going to share some of this. I have some of this slides that I created, that I used to relate to concepts like the lokahi wheel, and then also another concept that we need spirituality. You know, in this Western world, don't mix church with state. I think that's been the biggest problem across the globe, is that we are not honoring the spirituality that came with every indigenous or native culture. So this concept of this lokahi wheel or not lokahi wheel, but lokahi in the concept of a core or spirituality, mankind and earth, and how we need to take care of each other and intertwine, or you cannot do one or the other. At least especially with the Kamalama program, because ho'omana or piliuhane is a part of the curricula, people are connecting with that. The families are connecting with that, and that's been super, super helpful. Because we are spiritual beings, and what I found that, especially up in Aloha House, when we start to address these things, now keep in mind, guys, I don't come from addiction. I started going up there under grant when I got hired, but I tell you, every Wednesday, including Thursday night, the welcome that I get by these people who are in addiction, I never did the 12-step. I don't know all this stuff, but they want to learn, because perhaps a big part of their healing, if these families can be helped healing, and us being real with the work that we do, providing that we keep boundaries and all that kind of stuff. I know that's important too, but just being real and role modeling for them, I think it's very, very possible. And we've experienced so many people who have healed through this process. So yeah, this is something that I had to learn, and I learned to my wife's family and that experience, how energy works, and the spiritual realm, tying that into the actual Western teachings as well. So I feel like I ran out of time, but really quickly, family is so important to me. I'm gonna pull this up. I want to stop share screen. I did not, all these years, I moved to Maui back in 1984, and then I went back to Hilo for a couple years. And then decided to move back to Maui. But most recently, I put on a family reunion, and 6 months ago we decided to do when our kapuna was leaving. And I just wanted to share the possibility that even after being talked out of this, that family is not going to come together. And a lot of what I haven't experienced, our own family has too. But I just wanted to share. This is 2 weekends ago, which is I put up Facebook posts.
To this special event. This is the first time I've ever been to a family reunion, so especially on the Mattos side, so it's definitely a memorable, special occasion, and I'll definitely not forget. Something exciting for the kids to be a part of. Just wanted to bless the food, and if you all could pulikako in the name of Jesus.
Sometimes it takes somebody to kind of step out. And that's what I've had to do, even on a larger scale with my ohana back home, because of the amount of trauma and where a lot of my cousins, lots of relatives are at. They're just struggling with addiction, even incarceration and yeah. So anyway, just wanted to, mahalo you. Is there any questions or any thoughts, anybody? Please share, because I couldn't see anybody's reaction to this entire time.
You're awesome, Kawika.
Thanks.
Kawika, I just want to mahalo you also for taking the time and sharing your personal story for Ho'ikaika. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Adele. I've gotten braver with it, believe me. But thank you for that. Yeah, anybody else? So yeah, I'd be happy to share some of the stuff that I've created or do. And just mahalo you for not only being on here, but the work that you do every day as well. When we're in the trenches, and if we can do it together, I believe that if the Hawaiian language can come back, and I was fortunate to experience that. My son is a graduate of the Hawaiian immersion. My oldest boy is 35. If Hawaiian language and culture can come back, that was almost extinct with the next generation, right? Or with this last generation, anything is possible, including healing families. So I went over my time. Mahalo nui, mahalo nui.